Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our full review of the Suunto Vertical 2. So the Suunto Vertical 2 is the top sports watch in the Suunto range. It sits above the Race 2 within the lineup and is a replacement for the original Suunto Vertical. Some pretty big changes have been made to this model, with the most notable one being that it is now an AMOLED watch as opposed to a memory and pixel one. It comes in steel or titanium models, with the steel watch costing £529 or $599, and then it's £629 or $699 for the titanium watch. Like I say, you've now got an AMOLED screen on the watch. It's a 1.5 inch display, but despite that very big, bright display, you are still getting very impressive battery life on the Vertical 2. You've got a steel or titanium bezel on the watch with a polymer case, and then you've got a sapphire crystal. This 1.5 inch touchscreen is the same size as on the Race 2. It's one of the biggest ones. I think it's the biggest one I've come across in a round watch. You've got 3 buttons on the watch, no dial at all. That's a key difference to the Suunto Race 2, which has a dial as one of its 3 buttons. And then another really big difference is the addition of a flashlight to the Suunto Vertical 2, which sits on the top of the watch, just as it does with Garmin's range of watches with flashlights. You have different levels of brightness in the white light mode and then a red light mode as well. Generally, the Vertical 2 is a pretty big and heavy watch. It's designed very much for adventurous outdoor activities, but because it's quite a slim watch, it does sit on the wrist quite nicely, I'd say. Got a 10 ATM waterproof rating and 32 gigabytes of storage. You've got a lot of storage on there, which is used for offline maps mainly at the moment. You don't currently have music storage on the watch though, which is maybe something that will come in time. You've got dual band GPS. You've got the same heart rate monitor as on the Suunto Race 2, which is designed to be a big improvement on the one that you had on the original Suunto Vertical. And then coming on to battery life, it's extremely impressive for what is a big, bright AMOLED watch. As I say, you get up to 20 days in watch mode if you're using the Raise to Wake feature. And I've actually been getting over half that even when using the always-on screen. You've got up to 65 hours of multi-band GPS tracking, which is 60 hours if you use the always-on display, and 75 hours of all systems only tracking. And then there are ultra and tour modes as well. If you're looking at epic adventures, that will see you get over 100 or even 200 hours of tracking. Compared to the Suunto Race 2, you're paying £100 more here. You are getting slightly more metallic design, a bigger watch with longer battery life. You're getting that built-in flashlight, but there are certainly a lot of similarities between the two devices. So the switch to AMOLED with the Vertical 2 here probably suggests we're not going to see too many more memory and pixel Suunto watches, if any more at all, because the battery life's so good on this and you're getting the brighter screen here with the AMOLED watch. So I've been using the Suunto Vertical 2 for the past 2 or 3 weeks, using it to track all my runs and other activities, as well as my daily activity and the occasional sleep. And first big like about it is the design. I think Suunto really is making some very good looking watches at the moment with the Race 2 and the Vertical 2. It's it's certainly a big watch, but it is quite slim and it spreads over the wrist. Like, it's a big watch on my wrist. In general, probably a smaller watch would fit me a little bit better, but it is a really nice watch to wear. It's fairly heavy and large, but I didn't find it too obtrusive throughout my testing. I think it's a really good looking watch with that black metal bezel. It looks very sleek and premium, and I think the design is also very sturdy and feels very sturdy on the wrist. It really doesn't feel like a watch you're going to be able to break. Screen is also great. It's absolutely huge on this watch, and Suunto is getting better at using that bright AMOLED display with its widgets and watch faces to really show off the screen it has here. Onto accuracy, the GPS accuracy has been excellent for me with the Suunto Vertical 2. Throughout my testing, I've been comparing it to other impressive multi-band watches, things like the Fenix 8 Pro from Garmin, the 40970, Apple Watch Ultra 2, and other watches, and it's always been very much spot on in terms of the GPS tracks, no matter what speed I'm running. If I'm running in tight loops, I've seen very reliable tracks from the Suunto Vertical 2. Distances and lap markers have matched up with other watches and that kind of thing. So I think you're getting a really good GPS watch here. Basically, I've had that experience with nearly all Suuntos over the past few years. The Suunto Race 2 was very slightly not quite as good as other Suuntos, but maybe that was just some random variation. But yeah, the Vertical 2, very good GPS tracker for sure. General, I've got no real complaints about the sports tracking and the training analysis on the watch, apart from the fact you have to create your own customizable sports modes again each time with a new watch. All the data you need is there. The training analysis is in depth. They use the training peaks, metrics and acronyms, and it's a little bit impenetrable, I think, when you first start using it, but once you get your head around it, you've certainly got all the data you need there to look at things like your training load and analyze that kind of data. So all around, a very capable sports tracker for sure. Then the battery life is obviously fantastic, and it's even better than I expected. When you see 20 days listed and you assume that's in Raise to Wake mode, normally I would be expecting to get something like 6 or 7 in always on mode, but I actually have 12 days out of the Suunto Vertical 2 with the screen always on, wearing it to track every run. I often took it off at night because I didn't really enjoy wearing it for sleep tracking because it's such a big watch and the sleep tracking is not great, as I'll come on to, but still 12 days with lots of running in that time, is really impressive battery life for an AMOLED watch. That's outlasting everything I think I've tested before, even the 51mm Garmin Fenix, I think maybe 11 or 12 days as well, and that's even bigger than this watch on the wrist. And then the GPS battery life, especially in multiband mode, the screen always on, is really fantastic, and that's, again, setting new standards for AMOLED watches. And if you are someone who likes to do epic events, very long hikes, ultra marathons, that kind of thing, to have a big bright display always on your wrist for the entire time is certainly a big plus. Then the user interface has been pretty snappy for me. I've not had any signs of lag with the new processors that Suunto's put into their watches. Very easy to swipe through the screens, check all your data. There are still some quirks to the way Suunto sets things up that I find mildly annoying, but the actual processor speed and that kind of thing has been good. No lag for me. The maps are very bright and clear. I like the climb guidance feature as well. They're not routable maps still. You can't create routes on the fly if you go off track or anything like that, like you can with Garmin watches, but it's very easy to follow a route on the Suunto watches, and the route creator in the app is really good as well. Very easy to create your route on there and send it across. And then last but certainly not least in my likes is the addition of a flashlight. This is just a great tool to have on a watch. Garmin has really proven that in recent years. I was a little bit skeptical at first when I saw it as a flashlight on the watch. I thought, how much am I going to use that? But it's become a bit of a must almost for me. It's so handy to have it on there, and having the proper built-in LED flashlight is a lot better than just having the screen light up, because for one, you can use the screen and the flashlight at the same time. You also can point it much more easily, and yeah, it's a really good addition to Suunto's watch, and I'm pleased they've done that with the Vertical too. Onto my dislikes then, and it starts with the heart rate accuracy. This is meant to be an improved sensor here with the Vertical 2, but I still had really poor results actually with the heart rate tracking on the watch. Entering the colder period here in the UK now, when optical tracking suffers a bit more, and I really rarely got good results from the Suunto Vertical 2's optical heart rate monitor. I ended up pairing a chest strap after about 5 or 6 runs just to start getting some better data into the training analysis. So that's something that still doesn't work for me. It can be a bit of a personal thing. Maybe other people will get better results out of the Vertical 2's heart rate tracking, but I'd certainly be pairing a chest strap with this watch to get better results. Not really getting a lot of smarts here from the watch. There's music controls, there's a weather forecast. Maybe we'll get music storage down the line, but this is still very much a sports watch, which is kind of fine by me. But if you're looking for those kind of features, especially the ability to link with streaming services for your music, then it's really Garmin watches or smartwatches you need to look at. Then the activity and sleep tracking, it's just quite poor on the watch. These are quite basic things. The sleep tracking, most brands actually aren't that accurate on it, I would say, but it's really inaccurate with the Suunto, to the point where the numbers just didn't make much sense at all. When it is such a big, heavy watch as well, which isn't that fun to wear to bed, you're just going to take it off if you're not really getting accurate data there. Steps tracking continues to be wildly low with Suunto watches. I still don't really know how they judge this, but even if I go for a run and I run 15k, I'll be told, oh, you took 7,000 steps in that time. It's there's no way I ran 15k with 7,000 steps and stuff like that. So don't really know what's going on with that, but you can ignore the step tracking on the watch, and if that's important to you, then it's immediately a bit of a write-off. So it's not a big feature on sports watches, I would say, things like the step tracking, but it's just odd that it's so wildly off with Suunto watches. There are still quite a few little mild annoyances with Suunto watches that you don't get so much with the more polished experience on a Garmin watch, or the quite simple experience on something like a Coros watch, which doesn't really go all out for trying to add loads and loads of features, but creates quite a slick user interface, I think, of Coros watches. And then Garmin just has loads of features and customization, some which you don't get on the Suunto watches. But yeah, basically every now and again something will crop up, just a bit annoying on the Suunto watch. So the fact that you can't customize the sports modes on the watch, you have to create a new sports mode every time you get a Suunto watch to get your stats on there. It's just a bit annoying to me. In fact, you have to use Suunto apps to add things to the watch. So something like rolling pace, which is a feature I like to use on lots of watches, like your pace over the last set distance. And with Garmin, I can add that via a Connect IQ app. It's a native thing on the Apple Watch. But with Suunto, there is a Suunto app for it, but you have to add it as one of your Suunto guides or Suunto apps to the watch, which you can only have 2 on with each sports mode instead of just adding it to the data fields natively. It's things like that. And then the torch you can only use if you're on the main watch face. You can't, if you're in the menus and hit the shortcut to light up the torch, it won't work. You can't just make it light up during a run and that kind of thing. And when you're syncing, you have to be on the main watch face, and you can't then go into the menus on the watch, because then it will stop syncing and you can't customize your sports modes in the app. And there's just lots of little things like that. They're a bit niggly and they add up a little bit over time. None of these are deal breakers for me. It didn't really spoil my experience of using the watch, but it's just little things that have been around for a while, and I just wish kind of Suunto would get on top of them and fix them, basically. You also don't get as much customization of things like the watch faces on this watch as you do with other brands, and the way they use the lap button is annoying to me in workouts. So if you have the auto lap on and you hit lap during a run, that data you won't see that data until after the run in the app. It just shows you the auto laps on the watch. You can't have, if you're with a Coros or a Garmin watch and you have auto lap on, but you hit the lap button, it basically just resets the lap. So you could start a new K or mile from there. Can't do that on Suunto. And yeah, like I say, it's nothing too bad. It's just if you are transitioning from something like a top Garmin to this watch, which I think is a very valid option for lots of people now, as I'll come on to in the verdict, a lot of these things might pop up and be a little bit annoying, and you'll wonder why you can't do them in the way you can on other watches. So my verdict on the Suunto Vertical 2, I think this is an absolutely excellent sports watch. I think it's got fantastic design, amazing battery life, accurate tracking in the most important area of GPS tracking, heart rate tracking. I would wear a chest strap, and it's all at a pretty decent price compared to the top adventure and running and triathlon watches from brands like Garmin, who the price really is spiraling a bit crazy with stuff like the Fenix 8 Pro. This is coming in at almost half the price, or even half the price, and you're getting a whole lot here in the Suunto Vertical 2, as long as you can kind of adjust to the way that Suunto does things in certain ways and give up a certain amount of features like customization and smarts and that kind of thing. I think it's coming out at a good time as well, with Garmin really ramping up the prices of its top watches of late. Vertical 2 is by no means a cheap watch, but for what you're getting here in terms of the materials used, the quality of the tracking, the overall experience of using this watch, this bright screen, this excellent battery life, I do think it is good value for money compared to the market at large. And I've really enjoyed using it. We're very happy to use it as my only watch going forward. And in general, I think Suunto are putting out the strongest alternatives to the top Garmin's out there. I think at the cheaper end of the market, there are loads of really good alternatives to Garmin's watches. Coros is making some very strong watches in that area. Suunto itself has the Suunto Run, that's a good watch. There are smart watches and brands like Amazfit, but when it comes to the very top rung of watches, things that are going to compete with the Fenix, even older models like the Epix Pro or the Forerunner 970, I think the options from Coros and Polar just aren't quite so good, but the Suunto Vertical 2 is. I think it is a very strong competitor to Garmin. You don't get as many features, you don't get as good navigation, you don't get as good training analysis, you don't get so much customization. There are reasons to look at a Garmin instead. You are getting a better all-round experience, I think, with more features. The Vertical 2 is cheaper, the design is excellent, the battery life is better. And I think it's getting to the point now where Suunto has managed to iron out enough of the kinks and annoyances with their setup that it's a very, very fun and enjoyable watch to use all the time. I haven't really had too many bugs with the software. I know some people report that, but it hasn't been the case for me during my testing. So yeah, a very strong option as long as you're prepared to make a few trade-offs in stuff that you won't be getting from those top Garmins. The Forerunner 970 is a bit closer in price. I do have the Forerunner 970 as the best overall sports watch on the market. For me, it offers best in class really tracking, analysis, navigation, all in a really lightweight and pretty hardy design now with the sapphire screen, the titanium bezel. It's got a flashlight. It's not as rugged and as hard wearing as the Vertical 2, which has much longer battery life as well, a slightly bigger screen. I think the 970 still remains the best all-round watch out there, but if you do need that extra hardy design, you're getting it here with the Vertical 2 for less still. And comparing it to the Suunto Race 2, which is £100 cheaper, I think you are getting a smaller watch with the Race 2, and that is appreciated by me as someone with thin wrists. You're mostly getting the same features across the board. You lose out on the flashlight, you don't get such good battery life, although the Race 2 still has good battery life. I found the GPS accuracy not quite as good as the Race 2, but could have been a bit of random variation that, or something that could be tweaked a bit. And Suunto has been very strong on GPS accuracy in general, so I think it's pretty fair trade-off here. Like, it's £100 more or less. I think you can make the case for either. The flashlight's a really good addition, the extra battery life's handy, but it's nice to have a smaller watch. Some people might prefer the dial control on the Suunto Race 2 as well. So either way, those are good options. I think the Vertical 2, having that extra battery is certainly very appealing, and so is the flashlight though. So I do think the Vertical 2 is one of the strongest watches on the market, a very strong alternative to Garmin's watches at what is a good price for such a impressive package all round that you get here. Suunto could continue to iron out some of the kinks. I say continue, like the stuff that's been there for ages that they really could iron out a bit quicker. I think they could just knock all that out, make the experience of using it, just remove some of the little hitches that just catch you during the day that you go, it's a little bit annoying. If they could just get rid of a few of those, that would definitely help them. All sports watches have these. I'm not singling out Suunto here. Everyone has little things you go, I wish I could do that. But yeah, I think they could just continue to improve some fairly minor things, and then it would be an even more compelling alternative to those top watches. But as it is, it's a fantastic sports watch. It's accurate, great maps, great battery life, great design. All the really key stuff, I think, is really there now with the Vertical 2, and it's coming in at a pretty good price. So definitely a watch I'd consider. That's our review of the Suunto Vertical 2. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.